We are live.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Police Off the Cuff After Hours. I'm your host. I'm here with my partner, my co-host in all things law enforcement, the very handsome Bill Cannon. What's up, Bill?
You know, this has been an exhausting week. Monday and Tuesday, we did a show on both nights on 9/11, the 20th anniversary. And last night, I did a show with Joe Pistone, a.k.a. Donnie Brasco, with first grade detective Tommy Dades, and we spoke all about the mob. And tonight, this is another show that it's in supporting cops and first responders. And we love doing this because that's what we're all about here on Police Off the Cuff.
Well, our guest tonight, we're happy to have, this is going to be a great show. I'll introduce our first guest, Megan Castellano. She's the executive director of the Mental Health Association in Putnam. And she's also the co-chair of suicide prevention in Putnam. And our guest who brought us here tonight, man, wait till you hear this. He's a retired NYPD second grade detective, an Army veteran, a registered nurse, and currently he's the coroner of Putnam County and the program director for the PFC Joseph P. Dwyer Veterans Peer Support Group. Let's welcome John Bourges.
Bourges.
I answered to many things. That's good enough.
I try to ask you how to say it.
John, is that French origin?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'd see. I never studied
somewhere along
French.
the line. My family jumped off a ship down in New Orleans. So, that's how we came here.
It's that New Orleans French, that Cajun French.
Nolans.
Yeah, New Orleans.
Nolans.
Yeah. And then, as the rumor goes, somebody in my family shot somebody, and we had to move to Chattanooga. So
he's been hiding ever since.
Timing is everything.
You know, John. In looking at, I have your resume in front of me, and it's like 3 pages long, but it's incredible the things that you've accomplished since you retired from the NYPD. And I think it was in 2001. It was the month before 9/11, correct?
Yep, just before 9/11.
And but
did all my terminal leave and everything.
Was that what sort of inspired you to join the Army and go to Iraq?
I'll tell you honestly. So a couple of things happened at the same time. You know, I was going to nursing school, and a lot of the nursing students that were with me, their husbands were firefighters. And one of them, after a few, first day, I think, had to leave because her husband was killed in 9/11. And I'll be honest with you. Almost every single day after that, I prayed that for God to bring me where I'm supposed to be. And on my last day working in the ICU in White Plains Hospital, I met a Army recruiter. And make a long story short, the next thing I know, I'm standing in a combat support hospital because I was a ICU nurse, an ER nurse. I was trained in burns, pediatrics, neonates, you name it, I did it. And I'm there 15 minutes, and the commanding officer says, "Everybody take a knee." And the rumor you heard is true. We're being deployed to Iraq. I'm going like, I've been in this Army like 15 minutes, man. I'm like, I'm going to Iraq.
Oh, well, John, what does that think they say? Never volunteer for anything, right?
Did you go through basic training first?
Well, I went, no, and yes, I went through officers basic, which is basically I have a skill and a talent that they want, and they'll more or less do anything and everything that they can to get you overseas and into a trauma center. One of the guys that I met while I was there, he was a chest cutter. He was the head of thoracic surgery in some university hospital in like Illinois. And the guy said, if I was using a walker, they would have figured out some way to get me onto a Blackhawk so I could get out where you guys are.
You know, what's funny is that my son's in nursing school right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's in NYU Myers. And prior to getting in there, because that's a heavy hit. That's about 110 grand right there. I tried to, I was telling him maybe you want to look into one of the armed services, and maybe you can get the because he graduated already from college, but as a physical therapist, he wanted to be a nurse after that.
Right.
So then I was like, why don't you just, and then maybe they could pay for your the nursing program for you, so you don't get this heavy hit afterwards. Because I paid for the first 4 years, and I'm like, I can't.
You're tapped out now.
Yeah. So what do you think? Is that a good idea?
Sure. Sure. I mean, and also the military, they're the ones that came up with the physician's assistant program. Because they needed somebody, sort of around the time of Vietnam between a nurse and the surgeon and the physician, and they came up with the physician's assistant program. And, that's also a great program. And to be able to do that, you can almost hang out your own shingle, do what you want to do.
Wow.
I just want you to, I just want my son to listen to this episode and realize I was right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So John, you're like a walking poster boy for
Mental health.
Yeah, a guy who's given back really too.
Of service.
Of service. And not just that, if anyone could have mental health issues, PTSD and that type of stuff, you've seen it all. And we were talking before the show, and I freely admitted to you and all of us, I think, that were on the NYPD and did 20 or more years, maybe even less than that, and saw the things that we saw have a touch of PTSD. And I freely admit that.
Yeah. Well, Megan knows my saying is basically, not only am I a spokesperson for the Hair Club for Men, I'm also a client. And, that's exactly true. And being able to admit the PTSD part of your life and how you're dealing with it is the first hurdle in a sense. And if you take, statistics and you add in PTSD and, another thing with the police department, we didn't meet in the neighborhood Haagen-Dazs. We hung out at the Blarney Rock on 181st Street. And, between PTSD and alcohol consumption and easy access to firearms.
You mean you hung out with Coogan's?
and Coogan's, yeah. Coogan's was the oasis, man.
Isn't it sad that Coogan's is no longer there? I feel a piece of my heart was taken away,
and during the riots and everything else, that was our sanctuary. That was like playing, Ellie Oxenfree. That was safe base. Everybody could be there.
We had Dave on the show, and he mentioned that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why a lot of
riots, the place went untouched. That was a place where it was nothing happened over there.
Yeah, it was a safe space. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that was the good thing about it. And everybody met everybody else. Not only the politicians, but the local kids, the local store owners, everybody went there, and it was a safe place to be. And it was good, and it had good food and good atmosphere. So.
Yeah, they called it the Cheers of Washington Heights, right?
Yeah.
A lot of cops met their brides. They're married to women they met at Coogan's.
They used to call
and their girlfriends too. I don't want to say.
And John, they used to call them war brides. I love that expression.
No, the girlfriends who you got them was a herpes triangle in the Bronx over there. Did you ever go there for a 4-4?
No.
That was the wraparound.
I went to Rags, and then there was. What was it up on Broadway by the 5-2? Next to Jesse Dames or something that was up there.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it.
There was 3 bars on 4 corners there in the Bronx. Yeah. They called it Herpes Triangle.
Yep.
And that's if you when he had to do the 4-1, the second one, the turnaround, that's where he wound up over there.
There was P&Ks in the Bronx too. That was
right. Piper's Kilt. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a popular couple.
Pauline's,
that's right.
One of them.
We're bringing back all these places that are probably.
I'm sorry. This is what happens when you get a bunch of cops.
Hey, how do you go?
It's okay.
We're jumping around.
I just find it so interesting when you're talking to anybody in law enforcement. It's like, what do you do? Well, we went to the bar, and this wherever you went. So it's just interesting. Like that's where.
Megan. I'm sorry, Megan, to interrupt you, but we had Dr. Washkill on the show, Stephen Washkill, who's a great guy and happens to be like a suicide prevention expert. Mm-hmm. And I had said to him, "Is it okay after you saw something really traumatic to go out drinking with the guys?" And he was like, "Absolutely, 100%. As long as it's not, 4 days or 5 nights a week doing a 4 to 4." He goes, "It's fine to do that."
Exactly.
Hey, you know what? You brought up Dr. Stephen Washkill. A big shout out to him. He just got a Fox gig. Did you see that?
Congratulations.
No, I didn't see
it.
Yeah, Fox News. He's going to be on there. I saw him post about it. They hired him for a gig. So congratulations, Doctor.
Yes.
That's
excellent.
Great.
Nicely done.
He's a big fan. So why don't you guys talk about the MHA of Putnam County? Megan, you want to start?
Well, I feel like we should probably really be talking about First Line, right, John? I feel like that's, that's
okay.
Really, that's the point that's the point of the show. So you want to say how we got the whole thing started?
No, you're good at this. You could do it.
So, I guess our organization was founded on something called peer support, which is people who have a lived experience getting together with other people who have a similar lived experience. So that's really what peer support is. So we've been doing that at our agency for decades. And then we got the contract to do our vet to vet program. That's when John came on board with us. And, it's basically putting veterans in touch with other veterans so that they can share their experiences, support each other, and sometimes really just listen. So we were at a meeting one time, and one of the sergeants from our local sheriff's department said, wouldn't it be great if we could have something like that for cops? And I'm like, absolutely. John and I had just been talking about that, and, how would we be able to get that started? So we had a couple meetings. We got some people around the table. We got support from leadership, and we went to have our first meeting and, trying to put together a team. And we said, well, we're going to get together at the Kent PD. And if anybody shows up, then that'll be great. And if not, it'll just be the 5 of us, sitting in a room talking to each other about what we want to do. And maybe other people, get into it and they'll join us. And 15 people showed up that day. A lot of people, retired NYPD that live up country, where we are, and other people that are active on duty now, just that, wanted to get involved and help because, they know how hard the job is. They know how stressful it is. And they know a lot of the stuff that people carry around with them. Sometimes, the weight can be really heavy. So it was really great to have all those people be there. And, I am not a veteran. I'm not in the law enforcement community. I'm just a nice person who's have my degree in public administration. I make sure the lights are on, the bills get paid. But I felt very privileged that the people in the room that day were, had the courage to be able to talk about their experiences, some of them personal, some from colleagues, and just what their passion was. We started the meeting, about why everybody was in the room. And ultimately, it was there just to help their brothers and sisters in law enforcement in any way that they could. So, and that meeting was in March of 2018, before the pandemic. And I feel like now, with everything that's gone on in the last year and a half, we're kind of needed now more than ever, because it's been a tough time for everybody, but for the law enforcement community in particular.
100%. I feel like we should get those 18 months back or deducted from our age,
Yes.
because for a year, all you did was hang out and eat in your house, and get fat.
Somebody said this is the first time that, it's like important for us to just sit on the couch and do nothing. Like, let's not screw this up, like this is something that we should know how to do. But now everybody's like, I'm done with this. It's been a little too long. So
It's time to move on, right?
I admittedly am the only person in the world that has not binge watched anything on Netflix since the pandemic started. So I just want to put that out there. So
Is that because you were so busy?
Yes. yes. Sadly.
Yes. John, how important is it that you have peers counseling their own peers and getting involved here? So cops see that other cops have gone through the same thing that they're experiencing now.
I think if you look at almost any other program out there that's a peer-driven program, they can all cite, anecdotal evidence of success strictly because it is a peer. It's kind of one thing to turn around to somebody and say, hey, I've been through what you're going through. Why don't we just sit down and talk and, we'll break bread, have a cup of coffee or something like that. As opposed to, well, I'm a therapist or I'm a psychiatrist and let's examine how that makes you feel. It's two completely different approaches. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but one definitely dovetails off of the other. I mean, who would you, let's say for the sake of argument, you're having a hard time and several people have called our number. Who would you rather talk to? You'd rather talk to a guy that's done what you've done, bought the t-shirt, got the coffee mug. And even sometimes that's a little bit different. Do you want to talk to a guy that was a white shirt, or do you want to talk to another detective, another patrolman? But you can relate to them because you've done the same thing. And maybe by talking to them, they then could turn around and go, listen, I was where you were, and this is what I did. I'm not here to say that you're broken. I'm not here to say that I'm going to fix you, but this is what I did. Or here's somebody that I've spoken to and I trust them. That's the next big thing, is to say that I trust them. And if they trust you, then maybe you could walk together into whatever path they're taking to try and either get help if they need it, or at least they know where it is, or at least they know that there's somebody that they could reach out to. And we do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not like you can call the number Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. I tell people all the time, nothing good happens at 2 a.m.
Right.
And
Or after 4 on Friday.
Yeah. you know, and so how do you then try and get over that little hump? And you know, our big thing is trying to prevent, you know, police officer suicide. I think so far this year, there's like 90 cops have killed themselves so far this year. And
Is that nationally?
yeah.
Nationally.
And I want to say that there's like in the last 4 years alone, it's 680, something like
Wow.
that. And those numbers are underreported because not everybody gets reported the same way. You know, I tell people with my veterans program, you know, there's the direct route usually because, you know, we have access to alcohol, we have the PTSD, and we have access to firearms. And those three things are extremely lethal. But you've also got the people that down a fifth of vodka and get on the crotch rocket and hit a tree. You know,
Right,
and
right.
you know, they might be taking the long way around, and that's gone down as an accident or an overdose, and it's an accidental overdose. You know, those numbers are low as opposed to what's going on in reality. And you know, the only way that we've seen it, and Megan and I have seen it in quite successful, not only in the veteran community, but in the police officers community, just being able to talk to somebody else. You know, and again, just to be able to talk, that's the thing.
But with
What do you think?
safety, I just want to add with safety, because I just feel like, you know, when you said about trust, I'm thinking about when we were at the meeting, I'm thinking Hank sitting next to me, he's like, cops don't trust, you know, and I'm like, I get it. So it's just important that you have that safety, that you know who you're talking to is someone that that you can trust, that you feel safe. And there's also the element of vulnerability, which, you know, what you were talking about, John, it's hard to put yourself out there to be able to say, you know, I'm somebody who's had this experience, you know, I had to deal with something that was traumatic, and whether I, you know, did it in a healthy way or not, you know, it was my experience. And then being able to share that with other people. You know, recently I was at a meeting with a bunch of EMTs, and it was amazing to me that chiefs were there, you know, talking about their own vulnerability, about their own struggles and their own challenges. And when you can put yourself out there like that, it lets other people know that it's safe for them to, you know, share whatever they might have been struggling with personally, and just, you know, having felt that they've had a safe space to be able to say whatever it is they need to say.
You know, Megan, we all know that the police departments have to do a better job with suicide because it's been around forever, and they really had to get a kick in the ass and to do certain things. You know, have in-precinct mental health workers, have guys to be able to turn themselves in anonymously. And I know about Papa and things like that with the NYPD because, you know, when cops turn themselves in, the first thing they do is take their guns, shield, and they put them in a position where they can't make overtime.
What do we say about this? We said the rubber gun squad, right? Like nobody,
Right.
so right. So, you know, I get it. So that was a news flash to me. I was like, really? So
And that's sort of like, you know, one of the things that we try and deal with our warm line is that, you know, it's completely anonymous. You could tell me your name's Donald Duck. You know, I'm not Papa. I'm not going to call your supervisor.
right.
I'm not going to do that. We are doing this strictly, you know, anonymously to try and help you to get to where you've got to be. And when you think about it, I mean, what defined you and me? It was our shield and it was our gun. Our gun was our sword. That was the thing that made you this warrior character. And when somebody takes that away from you, they've taken away your identity. They've taken away almost literally who you are,
Well,
whether it's in the military or as a police officer.
Speaking of taking away your identity, what about these? What do you think is going to be the repercussion of all these soldiers that went and fought in Afghanistan, and now they're thinking it was a huge waste of time? I mean, that's got to weigh on you. You lost both your legs over there for this. This was a 20-year battle. You went over there. There was a belief of a cause you were helping, and now apparently, like, there's going to be some repercussions.
I feel like this is a modern day Vietnam, right? Like
Yep.
it's just like, and I just feel like just what you said. You know, there are a lot of people who are going to feel demoralized by it. They're going to be sad. They're going to be disappointed, and yeah.
A friend of mine is a Vietnam veteran, Silver Star recipient, walks the walk. He thinks about Vietnam now every day. He sees it back as the fall of Saigon. That's what he sees in his mind replaying each and every day. And we try and tell people that, you know, look, you served your country honorably. You did the deed. It's not, you know, what the politicians did, but you served honorably. Your actions are not, you know, where the problem is. It's the actions of other people. Don't think that your service was a waste. Your service was something tremendous.
And I would hope if we learned anything from Vietnam, you know, I just was talking to somebody about this earlier today, like, you know, as far as welcoming people home, hopefully it's so nice for me just to be able to see the appreciation that wasn't there decades ago. So I just would, it's like a rally cry to the community just to say, let's please welcome them home and thank them for their service and realize the sacrifices that they've made, regardless of decisions that are being made that they have no involvement with, like just to John's point, they raised their hand to serve and served. So
I mean, even the people that are leaving right now, the people that are leaving there right now have to wonder, the soldiers that were there, what the hell was I doing there? Like at this point right now, there's going to be such a blowback from that. Just people wondering, like, what was this all? Because there's a certain amount of trust. Like you buy life insurance, for example. God forbid you die and they don't pay out. I mean, you lose trust in everything. There has to be some things that you can trust wholeheartedly, and that's one of them. Is like if you're going to go fight for your country and put your life on the line, that it's for a good reason.
Now transfer that over to the police department and people defunding the police, not standing up for the police. It's sort of like they're living the exact same thing. It's all of a sudden, instead of somebody being there and having your back, they're no longer supporting you and you're now out on your own, and we don't care what you went through and we don't care what you did. And, there's so many similarities between the two services, and what's going on. It just compounds each other. What's going on in Afghanistan. A lot of our young cops, they're all Afghan. I mean, Afghan's been going on 20 years. A lot of those guys went through the military, came home, and they joined the police department. Right. And, between you, me, and the wall, I wouldn't be a cop today. And I tell you, you see that new graduating class in the city, my hat's off to them, man, because after what I see going on in the city, I would have changed careers.
I would have been there.
Well, and again, and that's what drives us.
Because I was a teenager. I had nothing else going on. I needed a job. That's how desperate I was for a job when I was a teenager. I took the job in, when did I come on? 92. That was the height of the crack epidemic.
But, John, when you see today, there's a lot of similarities to back in the 90s, because crime is coming back with double barrels, except we had the tools to fight it. And we had the backing of...
We had support from the department.
Yeah, we had backing from the department, backing for the politicians. Now crime is coming back double barrels, and they don't have the backing of the politicians. They pass idiotic laws like the diaphragm law. They take away qualified immunity. Stop, question, and frisk is something. It's like if you say that word, it's like a curse almost. So the tools to fight crime aren't there right now. And every time I see a cop now in the city, I go up to him and say, "Hey, thank you for your service." Absolutely. It's very similar, like you say, John, to a soldier.
Yeah, but like Bill was saying, it's like even though, because right now all these people are backing away against. They don't want to be part or connected with defund the police. That's something it didn't work out, and they're all backing away from it. Unfortunately, for their sake, they have themselves on video recorded, saying that they were for it, but it's too late now. But now that all these cities are funding the police now, but the problem is, like Bill said, they passed all these things, the diaphragm law, the bail reform. You can hire 1 million police if you're going to let these guys out as soon as they get arrested. They're not scared of getting arrested.
This is one of the things that came up for us with First Line is that, as if the job wasn't stressful enough. And then now you have to have all these other things on top of it. So you just mentioned bail reform, and we were talking about that. Like, how frustrating is that for you? Like you're out there trying to do the right thing and do your job, and that, like for what? Like, so I just feel like it's all the more reason for people to be able to reach out and try to get some peer support.
It's not even good for the perpetrators. The people that you arrest, because those are the times where they go re-up on their meds. Sometimes they get tired of being on the streets. They get 3 square meals a day. Even if you take them off the streets for 2 weeks, a month, guess what? That block that they walk down every day without their shirt on, just menacing the whole neighborhood. They're in peace for 2 weeks a month. They're in Rikers getting their meds, getting 3 square meals a day, getting off the drugs for a little bit. It all worked out. And
that's so accurate.
People.
That's so accurate. The people that are suffering from mental health issues All of a sudden, they're back into the system, and they have access to a social worker or a case manager or
Don't get me
meds.
started on this topic, right?
Yeah, and she knows, and or alcohol or drug abuse or whatever it may be. That was their shot, whether they took it or not, to get back into that thing of either being back in recovery, back on your medications, back into society, and they threw that away. And what's happening to these guys? They're just being thrown back out onto the street to survive that way.
And again, the street, they're there every day now.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why you're seeing heinous crimes like a guy hitting a guy with an axe at an ATM.
Oh, that was bad.
I mean, we weren't seeing that for, thank God, for years. But now these crazy, nutty crimes are coming back,
I try to explain to people when I was talking to somebody, we'd saying like, oh, crime is up in the city. I think it's almost 400 or something like that. And I said, try 2,200, dude. Back in the 80s.
Right, when you think about
2,200 homicides,
2,200 murders.
20 of them in my place alone. So, it's it's
all
a different way. It's a different perspective. But again, I liken a lot of it. We were talking about this earlier. It's like I remember 1988 in Dinkins. It's sort of like, we were the bad guys. No matter what happened, he paid for the funeral. He sent the drug dealer who tried to murder a police officer. Mike, Mike, he's come here with the, his books and stuff. So, all these different things of who was standing up for you? Nobody. And it's sort of the same feeling now for the police, but it's also the same feeling for the veterans that are coming back from Afghanistan. Who stood up for you? Nobody. There were so many ways that you could have left this situation, and this was not the way to do it. And so many people are feeling those repercussions.
And
John,
what?
I just watched the other day, Jon Stewart confronting Congress when they tried to cut off the 9/11 funds for the survivors and the guys that were sick. And it was so disgusting. First of all, only about 20 or 25 congressmen showed up at all to the meeting. Right. And he was almost in tears pleading with them, like, how could you even think about not funding this? Exactly. And they stood there like the bureaucratic morons they are. And they were shamed. They were actually shamed into funding it because they were just so embarrassed not to vote for it, But they really were considering not refunding that,
And and again, it's the support. If you don't feel the support, why bother?
Well, if you're talking about support, when you're coming back right now from Afghanistan, are you going to get the same type of benefits? Because there's always a problem with the VA and getting your health benefits.
They're pushing all my buttons tonight, John.
Yes, they are.
Here's what happens.
Every single one of them.
If you come back from like a war where we're like, we won and you're a hero, I'm sure all the benefits are flying at you. But now you're coming back from Afghanistan. They want to make sure this thing is forgotten as quickly as possible. But all those people that were there, they're coming back with PTSD or whatever they had to go through when they were there. Now they're coming back, and there's no parade for them. They're just gonna get shuttled back. And are they gonna get the benefits, or are they gonna just try to pretend this thing didn't happen?
If you ask me, the VA invented the word bureaucracy. You want to see a clusterfuck? Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
It's all right. That's all right. We're allowed to curse on here. This isn't radio.
So, I mean, if you want to see a cluster, just try and see people maneuvering through the VA system. I mean, as an example, Megan knows because I do this all the time.
Read that book. Thank you for your service. You want to talk about somebody who desperately, is looking for help and wants it, is going through all the I'm reading this book. I'm thinking I would have given up on day 2. Like this is who set this system up? This is, it's doomed to fail.
Yeah. I get a guy that's homeless and he's living on a friend's couch. And according to the VA, couch surfing isn't being considered homeless.
That's right.
You have to be able to check yourself into one of the, the nearby shelters like Jan Peak House. And I wouldn't send my enemy to Jan Peak House. But in order to be able to get into the system, you've got to go there. And you've got to run into a guy who's overworked, underpaid, and stressed to the max to try and get you into the system if you qualify.
Right.
How much time did you serve? What was your discharge level? How much money do you make? You could be suffering from PTSD and the VA could turn around and go like, well, you make too much money. Mm-hmm. We're not going to help you pay for your psychiatrist. You're going to have to pay for it through your insurance company.
You'd be sick.
Folks, we're going to have to go to a quick commercial here. Folks, if you don't know, Police Off the Cuff now has channel memberships. And we have, there's 4 memberships now. They're sort of funny. The first one is called The Bucket. The second one is called Polish My Rack. The third one is called Dipped in Butter. And the fourth, the premier one, that costs a lot of money, costs $50 a month, Heated Dipped in Butter. So not only can you get them dipped in butter, but you can get it heated butter to dip them in. So that's our membership. So far, we got 4 members. People are starting to join the Police Off the Cuff Club. And Mark, we're going to go to some of our paid sponsorships now. You can do the honors.
If you're looking to relocate to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Carol Waters of the Beach Realty Group has been buying and selling property in the Myrtle Beach area for 11 years now. Carol and her husband, Rob Mahone, are retired. He's a retired FDNY firefighter, and he was first a cop, work as a team. Carol has been a multi-million-dollar producer for the last 10 years. They have great knowledge of all the aspects of the real estate industry. Carol is well known around the Irish community in New York. She worked in Fitzpatrick's Manhattan Hotel for over 20 years behind the stick. Originally born in the Bronx and brought up in County Mayo, Ireland. Contact Carol Waters for all your real estate needs in the Myrtle Beach area. Carol Waters Sell. That's her MB. That you can see it right there. That is her email, and the phone number is 914-261-6681. Folks, God forbid, I love you all for being fans of the show. So I'm giving you a heads up. God forbid you're ever out and you get in trouble and you need a lawyer. You want to call Joe Murray. He's a frequent guest on the show. He's our legal expert, a retired NYPD officer who made good by becoming a lawyer. Check out jmurray-law.com. Put this phone number in your on speed dial on your phone there, the top 10 numbers, 646-838-1702. Not only is Joe Murray a frequent guest on the show, a lawyer, retired NYPD, he's a gentleman, and he will make sure that he's in your corner. That's the type of guy he is. He'll fight for you. This is the lawyer that you want. God forbid you get in trouble.
Folks, if you're looking for supplements, be sure to check out the products from firstdonutrition.com. As first responders, there are certain expectations on our performance on the job. We train hard and drill often to be able to perform at our best when duty calls. Whether it's hoofing over 100 pounds of gear or engaging in a spontaneous foot chase, we work out like our life depends on it, because it does. 2 New York City firemen created the supplement line with hand-picked products that will not pop positive on any drug test for first responders. Solid pre-workout products that will give you a good pump and a short-term strength boost that can help you power through your workout. Supplements that help with fat burning and weight loss, and post-workout formulas that support recovery. Go to firstdonutrition.com. Use code OFFTHECUFF to get 10% off your order. You can get jacked using that product, right? Working out and staying in good shape. Police Coffee is an officer-owned business dedicated to crafting the finest coffees and blends to provide you with the freshest coffee available. Each batch is roasted fresh by people who know what it means to stay vigilant. And their specialty coffees do not waste one drop when flavor is concerned. Our coffee is some of the best you'll find, but it also helps serve an important cause, giving back to our community. 50% of the profits goes towards helping family members of police officers who fell in the line of duty. To order coffee and related products from policecoffee.com, go to the website. There are over 7 types of coffee to choose from. 50% of the profits go to officers' families in need. For a 10% discount, use code OTC10. That's off the cuff 10. The website is policecoffee.com. I've gotten tremendous feedback on this product. People that have ordered this coffee, they love it. In fact, I'm going to order some myself. I'm going to switch from Dunkin' Donuts. Don't even mention Starbucks in my house. So I'm going to switch to policecoffee.com. So guys, it's supposed to be an amazing product. Everyone that has ordered it from this channel has told me great things about it.
I wrote it down. I'm going to do some early holiday shopping.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. Juan Valdez asked, Bill, I missed the intro. Is that John from the 3-4 squad? One and the same, but not just the 3-4 squad, a captain in the U.S. Army, a nurse. He wears many, many hats. Coroner, the guy's unbelievable, man.
I see dead people.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
How
something.
did that happen? Why don't you
Yeah.
tell us about that? How do you
Been
become a
seeing dead
coroner?
people for too long, John.
So one of my friends is the chief coroner. And he said, John, you were a homicide detective in New York City. You spent a year in Iraq in the busiest trauma center in the world. He said, if you don't know what a dead guy looks like, I don't know who does. So he said, and it's an elected position. So all I had to have was my license. And I ended up, you'd be surprised. Not too many people run for coroner getting paid $17,000 a year to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to look at dead guys.
It's a hot field. It's a highly sought after.
Yeah.
That was it.
position.
17. Well, but how often do you gotta come in?
Whenever they call. I mean, we had like
How
one
often
day
do
we
you
had
wanna
a
go for
suicide and an
17,000
overdose.
a year?
And then we didn't have anything for like a week or two. So it changes, it fluctuates. But yeah, it's a $60,000 budget spread between 3 people.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Imagine.
You know, John, it was funny today. I drove into the city. I agreed
God
to
bless
be,
you.
to be. Oh my God, that's what I'm going towards. I agreed to be in this documentary, and I don't know why I agreed to it. It was about some kind of law enforcement stuff. Anyway, just driving in there, I was like, I will never ever do this again. I mean, imagine doing it like we did it. You know, 4 or 5 days a week. It's like now I think the traffic going into the city is worse than it's ever been because no one wants to take the train anymore because of COVID.
My family will tell you that I drive like an old man up in Putnam County because I'm not in a hurry. Life is too short. La-di-da-di-da. I hit the Bronx line and it's like I'm like, you know, the Tasmanian devil. You know, I am a completely different person. And they're like, you know, all of a sudden they tighten up the shoulder strap, they start holding on to things, you know, and
Hey,
it's
I still, you guys can make fun all you want. I still live here. But you mentioned 9/11. I don't want to forget this.
Yeah,
Speaking
absolutely.
of 9/11, I was in a documentary that's coming out. It's a film. It's called Too Soon: Comedy After 9/11. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a stand-up comic. So is Bill, by the way. But I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and I was a comic when 9/11 happened. So there's so many famous comedians in this documentary, and then there's me. And it was just because I happened to be a comic when I was a cop, so they threw me a bone. But yeah, it's coming out now, and after 5 years of hard work, they're announcing it. So it's called Too Soon: Comedy After 9/11. So check that out. It's all about 9/11 and how comedy kind of sort of picked people up, I guess, in a way.
It's funny you say that. I was just looking for something today, and it was a stand-up comic. It was a roast of Hugh Hefner, and I can't remember the name of the comic, but he's like this guy that like always yells. You know, he's has a high pitch yelling.
Gilbert Gottfried.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it was like
Gilbert.
3 days. Do you know what he did? Like
I
at the
know.
roast, it's like the filthiest joke ever told. But he started off with like, you know, he was on a jet plane or something. You know, and it first stop was like, you know, the Empire State Building or something. And people started to boo him because they said it was too soon after 9/11.
Yeah.
You can't do this. And then he went off into another joke, which was the point of that thing. But, you know, yeah, that must have been very hard to do.
Yeah.
Grace Green in the chat says our country truly has to embrace 2 words: positive power. Think it, feel it, make it our new outlook. And although it will not happen overnight, integrity and truth will be our strength to win. Yeah, Grace, we agree with you.
Yeah,
We definitely agree with that philosophy. And, you know, but people need help to, you know, it's not enough to be positive if a lot of things in your life are negative. People need help, and they need help from people like John and Megan here because it's, you know, they need a shoulder to lean on, right?
And the hardest thing is for people like you and me, and Megan knows this firsthand. You know, we're the people that you call when you're in trouble.
That's right.
You know, we're the guys, you know, we're not the weak ones. We're not the ones that have problems. You know, we're there to solve the problems. We're there to, you know, be the knight, you know, the way that, you know, you want the result. You want people to come and help you. That's us. It's not the other way around. And to be able to get somebody to admit, well, maybe I do need help is the hardest thing for every one of us to do, whether or not it's a firefighter, whether or not it's a police officer, whether or not it's military, somebody that's, you know, served overseas and is coming back. So a lot of things that happened, you know, the hardest part is I've got this, you know, I got it. I'm doing okay. And, you know, in reality, they're not. And to be able to make that break, I mean, I remember the first time one of the cops called me, and it was because he knew me. And he said, that's the hardest decision I ever had to make. You know, he was dealing with the loss of a friend who was another police officer. And it was a friend of his, you know, broke bread and, you know, all that. And he said, that was the hardest thing for me to do, is to admit that I needed to talk to somebody. And, you know, we were able to sit down and, you know, our difference is that we don't meet at the Blarney Rock or at Coogan's. You know, we have a tendency to meet for coffee.
Don't tell them where you go.
Yeah.
You get thrown off the show. It's the only place we have up here.
Yeah. But, you know, again, it's one of those things that was the hardest thing for him to do. And, you know, if you look at our lifestyle, that's true.
And John, you have a huge amount of New York City cops up in Putnam County, correct?
Yeah, I think if you throw a rock, you hit either a cop or a fireman.
Everywhere I go, I can't believe it. I never forget this. I'm like at a craft bazaar for at our church, you know, and I'm talking to the person that's across from me, and you know they're retired. I'm like, of course you are, like everybody I talk to. So yes, which is great.
Unless they were, you know, retired or they're FDNY, then they're usually, you know, I'm the carpenter, I'm the plumber, I'm the roofer. Oh, and by the way, I'm a fireman in the city.
I'm a fireman, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they say being a fireman is the greatest part-time job in the world.
Exactly.
I'm probably going to get some hate mail after I say that, but you know.
But that's how,
Everybody
that's how I got involved with acting, because I was looking at all these other guys. I'd stand roll call when I was a rookie in the task force there, and one guy was a plumber, the other guy was an electrician, the other guy was an exterminator. And I was like, man, if I'm going to have a part-time job or something that I'm going to do on the side, I want to do something I want to do. And I always wanted to be an actor. And so I got it. I went to an acting school and I started studying acting. That's exactly what got me into it, because everybody had another job.
Do you remember, Bill, the firebombing of the fire truck? And they threw the Molotov cocktail into the truck.
Yes.
So one of the guys that was in the truck was a cop. He was in the police department in the city, and he hated the fact that everybody hated him as a cop. He was working like in Bed-Stuy or something. And he was just like, you know, I'm out of here, man. I you know, people hate me. They're cursing at me, but they're doing this. He joins the police, the fire department. He gets transferred up to the truck off on like 168, and they're going down the road, and they come to the stop, and they threw a Molotov cocktail through the window, and it broke and it sprayed everybody. And because he was the rookie, he was wearing all of his bunker gear and stuff. And all the other guys that were the senior ones, they were down, you know, like the pants were down. They were just wearing the t-shirts. They got severely burned. He had to get out of the job. He was just so messed up after that. Wow. He's like, what the hell is the matter with this world? What is just
that fire department thing is crazy. You know, I grew up with this kid, Richie, and I became a cop. He became a fireman, and I was on the fire department test. That one that came back that they were found out that there was discrimination on it. And by the way, my real last name is Sanchez. And I passed the physical, no problem. I had 97, forget it. But the point is, Richie died in a fire in a basement in an abandoned house. And he was a power lifter. He was like one of the strongest dudes I know. So it was just weird that like I didn't get on that job. I stayed on the PD. But the fact that this guy was so strong and he could die, it's like.
I think it's genetics, man, because, you know, give me a man with a gun any day. You know, send me into a burning building. I'm calling for my mommy.
Yeah,
but,
me too.
You know, give me a man with a gun. I'm okay with that. Burning buildings, not so much.
Amy Dodd, she says, I fear people are forgetting about 9/11. The Biden administration clearly is forgetting about 9/11. Well, one of the things that I was a little bit shocked about is that this 20-year anniversary, they're not allowing first responders to go down there and celebrate, just family members of people that were lost. I find that to be outrageous. Absolutely. How could you exclude first responders from the 20-year anniversary? You know, the attacks on our country. What politician is making that decision? Disgusting. You know,
they should call it the Obama birthday party to smash, and then this way they can invite as many people as they want.
Yeah,
because apparently, if you could throw a party for whatever you want. They had the surges, the bike ride down there. What are we talking about right now? We're talking about people standing outside. You know, and you could separate them if you want as best as you could. They could be blocks away, but you can't keep them away.
No,
all you had to do was coordinate it. The whole decision is stupid.
I agree with you, and I'm afraid you're absolutely right. You know, people are forgetting it. You know, Bill, we were talking about this earlier. I really think, you know, this is 20 years. I don't know where 20 years went, but my God, this is like a major thing. And you hear so little about it. And I'm shocked about that. I really am.
Yeah, it's almost like it's being done purposefully so that people do start forgetting about it and not realizing that it was the big deal that it is, and not allowing people. That's part of PTSD to also not allowing people to grieve, because people need to grieve and continue to grieve over something like this. And when they just across the board say, "Oh no, we're not going to allow that to happen this year," it's just.
Yeah, there's a lot of survivor's guilt. There are a lot of guys that turn around. I'm one of them. We should have been there. We should have been there.
And
When you change the narrative, it doesn't help.
Yeah, and a friend of mine, Vietnam veteran as well, he made this comment once when he was down at the wall, and he said, life would have been so much easier if my name was up here.
Wow.
And it's just him dealing with his war experience. And it's the same thing for a lot of us, whether you're in the fire department. One of my friends, he's a captain up in the Bronx. I mean, lost 30 people that he broke bread with, and the only way he could deal with it was like, the guys that went to the left died, guys that went to the right lived.
Right.
He had no other way of saying it, but but you're alive. And it's the same thing when you go to war and you come back from war. Okay, I'm alive, but why is my buddy dead? Or why couldn't I save that guy? Why couldn't I save that man's life? Why couldn't I do this? Why couldn't I, and you keep hitting yourself and beating yourself up with that over and over again. And same thing with, the police department. It's like, you're working in a precinct and, 3 cops are killed when I'm working there, and the riots, and, well, why did they die and why am I still alive? Why is this? Why, and that's what
John, a similar thing just happened in Chicago with, that police officer, French, who was shot right in the forehead. A partner is probably going to be paralyzed, and the mayor there is not allowing them to have a big funeral ceremony. I mean,
Right.
it's almost like they're doing it on purpose to piss people off. It's incredible to me that politicians have the power they do. First of all, they have the biggest power they have is the power of the purse strings, just to spend our money any way they want to, waste it. Well, another small thing with Afghanistan, I mean, how about just leaving millions and millions of dollars of equipment there? Don't you think maybe if they planned better, they could have taken some of that stuff and returned it to the United States? No, instead they leave it there. I mean, that is pissing on the taxpayer.
Yep.
I don't know, unless you wanted them to have it. I think we should give a shout out to people in the chat. I just wanted to say my aunt, Johansi, she's watching on the chat, and my cousin Dwayne. And we have so many people, Bill, that came on the chat tonight. And they got a whole show going on over there on their own. But I don't know. Do you want to give a shout out to them?
Yeah, sure. Shannon, Georgia Peach, what French? What do you mean? They need to stop making it political. It's the police officer. Yeah, French. A female officer was shot and killed in Chicago by 2 thugs whose mother got arrested because they wouldn't allow her to visit them in prison, in jail, actually, awaiting their trial. They should just execute those 2 now, save the taxpayers money, The joy catcher, ripple effects are endless when you think about deeply. KH Walker, they just had a huge ceremony today, thousands. Good. I'm glad they did, because the police deserve to have an inspector's funeral. That's what we call it in New York City.
No gold casket, though, like somebody else.
No, exactly. And the mayor of Chicago is the most horrendous mayor I've ever seen. And I've seen de Blasio, and she's even worse. Amy.83, I'm from the UK and thought it was the worst thing I've ever witnessed. Okay, the TV and still is. MC's audio, a step here, an inch there. That's what made the difference that day, sadly. Rebecca, survivor's guilt, I can't imagine. Ron Daniels, never forget 9/11. That's right, brother. Johansi Acosta, hi, Mayo. That's your relative, Mark?
That's my aunt, yeah.
Okay. Rebecca, great. Wow. Folks, if you're not subscribers to Police Off the Cuff, just go on our YouTube, hit the subscriber button, give us a thumbs up, hit the bell. We actually are at over 13,000 subscribers now. I think 13,300. But we're not satisfied with that. We want We want to go to the moon. You know, we want as many
$60,000. They say if you get 60,000 subscribers, you can quit your job.
Oh, that's good.
That's our goal.
I don't have one.
Folks.
I don't have one. This is my job right now. So I already quit, you know. But folks, we're going to come up with some amazing content. I don't know if you saw last night, we had Joe Pistone on, the real Donnie Brasco, Tommy Dade's an organized crime expert. And we actually have a commitment from Sammy the Bull Gravano is going to come on our show. And, you know, some people may criticize us. Oh, you're glorifying organized crime. No, we're not. We didn't cut the deal with him. The federal government did, you know, and he's just telling his story to us. And people used to tell us stories all the time about murder, right, John?
Yep.
So we're just putting it on YouTube now.
That's what sells People Magazine, right? And the newspapers. So
that's right.
Why not your channel?
And from a police perspective, you know,
Correct.
we're giving them the police.
Thank God you don't have the FBI there. So
I just wanted to say about
all they do
9/11.
is frame people.
I feel like for people who don't have a connection to the first responder community, I don't think that they can really fully appreciate what the day means and, you know, what the 20th anniversary means. So I guess I would just, you know, say to people that, you know, there are some people that probably feel like it's over, you know, it's in the, I just want to remind them, no, you know, please check in on people that you care about that are in law enforcement, first responders. You know, that's a day that's going to be really hard for a lot of people. And so I just want to put that out there as something that we talked about at our last first line meeting. And I know we're going to do a lot of local advertising just to encourage people to reach out. You know, don't be sitting by yourself, you know, feeling bad about, you know, remembering and, you know, feeling like you're alone and there isn't anybody to share those memories and those experiences with you. Because,
you know, Megan, that's why we remember December 7th, 1941.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Right. That is that date, you know, a day that will live in infamy.
Correct.
And 9/11 should be listed in the same vein as that. Joe Murray, thank you, Joe, for a $20 super chat. And Joe says, thank you for all you do for Police Officer, all you do, including bringing us these wonderful guests. John Bourges, I mean, you know, what he's done since he left the police department, not even including his police career, which was exceptional. He's done amazing things. And it's like people are pushed by a higher power, that's for sure. And I believe you were, John, to do great things after you retired.
I
I appreciate that. And if you look at also a lot of times when I'm either dealing with a veteran or I'm dealing with a police officer, you know, as much as I'm probably there to deal with them, one of the first things they almost all ask is, listen, how can I help? You know, how can I help somebody else? And I always look at them and said, listen, you walk the walk, you know, you talk the talk. You're either in recovery, you're this, you're that. I'm going to need you because you're going to be able to talk to somebody as a peer saying, hey, been there, done that, bought the coffee mug, got the t-shirt, and they'll be able to relate to you. And it's part of our genetic makeup. We want to give back. We want to serve other people. We want to help. That's what we do. And, you know, things like First Line, which is, you know, it's an anonymous number. Anybody can call it 24 hours a day. Same thing with the Warm Line for veterans. It's one of those things that's what we do to try and help ourselves. Because if we don't help us, there ain't nobody else out there that's going to help us.
You mean, John, you don't say, oh, excuse me, were you a cop or a fireman? Oh, you weren't. Sorry. You have to call the other suicide number.
Yeah. I mean, and I've gotten calls from people down in Texas that weren't cops, but they came across the Warm Line and we were able to talk to them for a little while and just, you know, help. And even though we're in Putnam County, I don't turn around and go like, oh, you're from Westchester? Sorry. Click. You know, it doesn't work.
You have to help the person. They're on they're you know, at the end of their rope.
Just what John said earlier, if you had the courage to pick up the phone and call, you know, like then yes, you know, whatever you need to do to be able to show up is you need to do it. Definitely.
Karen Carney, so sorry I'm new to the channel, but watching of shows and thought I would pick up the courage to say hi from England, from Stafford, England. We love our fans from across the pond.
Awesome.
It's amazing that we got people from Ireland, Australia, you know, all these different countries, and they show up in our podcast, in our chat. Thank you so much for watching. Please become a subscriber to Police Off the Cuff. Marie Green, how are you? Duty Ron, one of our great supporters, is in the chat. Joe Murray obviously is in the chat. The Pranzos, the great Lieutenant Pranzo, and his wife Rachella, our biggest fans, our first subscribers to our new memberships, which we have. Thomas Negrone, 2-3 Squad, hoorah! Down here, they recently shot a Navy veteran using a walker. 77 years old. Where's that, Tommy? I didn't hear about that. But folks, hello, Karen. I'm from Liverpool. That's where the Beatles were from, isn't that right? I have a little picture of the Beatles behind me. So that's great. So great to have you people. Thomas Negron is from Orlando. Orlando is it's turning into New York City, I think. Orlando, besides Mickey Mouse and everything.
I locked up Minnie Mouse.
Minnie Mouse.
I locked up Minnie Mouse.
Well, now you can lock them up in Midtown because they're all wearing those. They're all wearing those outfits, trying to make a living, posing as Spider-Man, and all the characters are fighting each other, for the tourist dollar. It's crazy what New York City has become again. We saw the decline drop over in the 90s into the 2000s, and now I didn't think I'd be here for when it went back up, but we are here. It is going back up.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a shame.
It is really a shame. John, I just want to say, John and Megan, you guys are doing God's work. And we say that to a lot of people that come on the show because we have a lot of amazing people that have come on Police Off the Cuff. There's a group of people called Equus Search, and they're out of Texas and they're out of Ohio. And they go all over the world searching for missing children. They're another amazing, amazing group of people. And you guys, and I said to them, you do God's work, and you guys also do God's work. And I, for one, are very thankful that there are people like you in this world.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Mark, you have any final words?
Well, even though I'm not a Yankee fan, I'm a Mets fan. Yesterday, Andrew Velasquez took the field as a New York Yankee, and he got a hit as far as I know. And he looks pretty good. And his father is retired NYPD second grade detective Kenneth Velasquez. So I just want to give a shout out to him. I know what it's like to bring your kid to all the games and stuff like that and be on these travel teams. My son was a great ball player, the one that's becoming a nurse now. And so I know this how he must feel. So give a shout out to them.
That's fantastic.
Oh, and also, too, I have to mention my album drops, The Bangers. Bill was in the audience falling asleep for it.
No, I wasn't.
I saw you, man. Looked like
I was cheering you on.
Yeah. No, he heard all my jokes already.
That's what I already knew was jokes, but I still laughed at them.
But it's coming out September 14th. And also, too, that's going to be it. Wherever you are, you can find that. Sirius XM, if you got in the car, you're going to get it. But also, too, I'm going to Grand Rapids, Michigan on September 2nd to do a police thing for them. Grand Rapids, Michigan PD. I'm coming out for you. Got some great stuff.
That should be great, man. That should be amazing. John, any last words before we're almost at an hour?
I would say the biggest thing for me is, if you're going through stress, if you're feeling something, just reach out to somebody, whether it's your partner, your radio car partner, your battle buddy, whomever it may be, just reach out to somebody to talk to somebody. This is going to be hard times for a lot of people. Afghanistan, 9/11, just life in general. And sometimes we can't really go through it by ourselves. We think we can, but just reach out to somebody. And we're always available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can reach First Line, and I'm sure they can get in contact with you how to find us, and go online and you'll find us, and we're there for you.
John, that's fantastic. Megan?
I just want to tell you a quick funny story. When we were at a suicide prevention conference up in Albany, and I got to meet one of the gentlemen, retired officer who's involved with PAPA. It's a great program, great guy. And I'm talking to him, and he says to me, "Did you ever read the book, The 5 Love Languages?" And I was like, what did this guy just say to me? So anyway, he's telling me about, how they use it and getting couples together and having people talk about their feelings. And I said to him, I think he was a homicide detective in Brooklyn for 20 years. So I said to him, if you could go back and talk to yourself when you were on the job, would you have imagined you standing here talking to me, asking me if I had read the 5 Love Languages? And he's like, never. So I just want to say that, cops are tough, it's a tough job, but they're also, you're human, right? So everybody's there's a soft place there too. So it's okay to let people see that, because that's part of who you are. So be who you are. Reach out. You're not alone.
You know, it's not only that, you're facing all these different, PTSD, you're facing issues of danger, people not liking the police. And then you got to go home and be dad
Right.
and be husband and take care of your kids and, work around your house, go food shopping, do all the things that you do during everyday life. It just doesn't stop because you may come home and not feel well and not feel like doing anything. Life doesn't stop, as you guys know, because you wear many hats just like we do.
And how does it go, John? How was your day? Fine. Anything happen? Nope. Nope. Isn't
that the funniest thing?
Yeah. Why don't you talk to me? Oh, about the woman that was burned to death inside the car.
Right.
Yeah, you want me to tell you about that? No. My day was fine.
So I'm just saying that there are people that do want to hear about that. It's okay. Yes.
Yeah, it's funny when I used to ask my youngest son, he'd come home from school. I would say, "How was your day?" He'd go, "Good." I go, "What happened?" He would just say, "Good." I would say, "Jake, I'm going to kill you. You say good one more time." Good. That was how he just blew me off. Good.
He didn't want to talk about it, man. He was tired.
Just as a side start, before you leave, my daughter's a bartender. And so one of the people said, "You're one of the most sarcastic people I've ever met in my life." And I happened to have been there. She looks at me and she goes, "That's his fault."
That's right. You can always blame it on someone else. That's for sure. Mark, you have any last words before we say goodbye?
No, I just want to say thank you so much to Megan and John. You guys were great, man. God bless you. You're doing God's work, like Bill said. Thanks for coming on. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Peace to you. Everybody take care of yourself.
And Megan, did I say this was just going to be like having a conversation?
You were so right.
Yeah, it was easy, right? It was so easy.
Great. Yeah, I'll be back.
Okay, great. And you guys are welcome to come back anytime. Just reach out to me. You want to come back on the show for some reason, you want to push something or talk about something, just contact me. You have my email right now. You're welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Stay safe and well, everybody.
Okay, from Police Off the Cuff, on behalf of Bill Cannon and Mark DeMeo, John Bourges and Megan Castellano, guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a great night.
Take care.